podcast.
All right, now recording. What's up, Fight Bros podcast listeners? Coming at you today with Fight Bros MMA show number 45. We got a great one for you today. I've known about this gentleman for a long time, and I've finally kind of got the courage to ask him to come on. This gentleman is coming off a 37-second submission victory. I believe it was in September. Is that correct, Robbie?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, today on the podcast, we're coming at you today with Robbie Ring. Robbie, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today, man.
No problem, man.
Yep. Man. So I'll kind of give you a rundown.
My pleasure. When you asked me, I was super stoked to get on the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate you coming, man. I'll kind of give you a rundown of how I heard about you. I'm 24 now, so I've been a little bit out of high school. But when I was in high school, one of our teachers talked about this promotion, Titans in the Cage, and he got us to go down there. Now, this was years ago, I believe, before you started fighting in it, and went down to George with, seen some of that, some of those that promotion that your parents run, Titans in the Cage, seen that, kind of really got hooked on it, man. Followed y'all's page on Twitter, or on Facebook, sorry, and then kind of kept up with it. And throughout the years, man, people started saying, hey, they got, their son, he fights. I don't think you had been fighting in the promotion yet, but there's like, this guy's the real deal. And I finally got to catch one of your fights at Pulaski High School. Maybe it was 2 years ago or so. I believe it was you and another gentleman. Was his last name Cook?
Yeah, Josh Cook.
Yeah, so finally got to come down there. Y'all came down my way in Pulaski, and that was awesome, man. I really enjoyed watching you fight there.
Appreciate it, man.
So, man, tell us a little bit about how your MMA journey began. Like, what's your origins of how you decided you wanted to do this as a career?
Yeah, man, that's a question I get quite often because my mom and my dad are both lifelong martial artists. So, ever since I was just a little kid, I was always brought up in the gym, watching my mom teach karate classes, watching my dad teach jiu-jitsu classes. And I kind of think, I wasn't never forced to start doing martial arts, but it was kind of convenient for me to do it where I was already there all the time. So, just kind of born into it, man, sitting there around it all the time, you're going to start picking up on some things and start just getting in there and doing it. So that's how it really started, is just watching my mom and my dad teach. And it was great. It was great. That's how I got started. 3 years old. Man. 3 years old when I started training.
3 years old. That's what I like, man. Tell us a little bit about your parents' background and how they kind of, got you born into this.
Yeah, so my mom, she's been involved. She's how long have you been doing martial arts?
1980.
Since 1980. And she started out doing Tang Soo Do karate, and got her black belt in Tang Soo Do early on in life. And she opened up her first martial arts school at 16 years old in Maryland.
Oh, wow.
And then, she met my dad, and my dad was involved in jiu-jitsu before he met my mom. But it was he was doing jiu-jitsu before jiu-jitsu was cool. Nobody knew they were like, what are them guys rolling around for, wrestling? And, now jiu-jitsu is really popular. But my dad was doing that before he met my mom, and then they ended up meeting each other at a martial arts competition and got married. So, and then I kind of had the best of both worlds. I had my dad being a grappler and my mom being, primarily a striker. So it worked out perfect for MMA.
Hey, man, that sounds like a good combination for what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
But kind of going a little bit more into your background and their background also, like I mentioned earlier, your parents run a promotion, Titans in the Cage, and then y'all also have a gym, Ring Combat Sports.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about y'all's promotion and about y'all's gym as well.
So Titans of the Cage, that's my mom's baby. She's the promoter of that. And we have a show coming up November 6th in Wytheville at the meeting center. So
okay,
if y'all are watching this, y'all come out if you're in the Wythe County area, Pulaski County, or wherever you're at. Come watch Titans of the Cage November 6th. But it started out in 2011. September 11th. I remember just being super young, watching, all excited. But man, to see how much the sport and that promotion has grown over the years, it went from guys who was like just brought like street fighting brawlers to watching these gyms form and actually have really skilled competitors competing at that promotion. And it's a very good promotion, amateur only. A lot of good fighters that are just hungry trying to get to be professional fighters. So they leave it all out there. That's for sure. And my gym, and that's kind of me and my dad's baby, Ring Combat Sports in Wytheville. We got a lot of good fighters there and a lot of young prospects too coming up. We have a few guys fighting on November 6th. So yeah, once again, if you're in the area, come check us out at Ring Combat Sports. We've had a lot. I know we've had probably over 500 MMA fights within our gym. So we got the experience for sure.
Yeah, guys, if you're listening, go check that out. Like I said, I went to the one when y'all came to Pulaski. I really enjoyed it, man. Y'all put on probably 20 fights, 15, 20 fights. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was awesome, man. I loved every second of that.
It was packed, that show too. There was a lot of people there. It was a great time.
So, kind of getting into your amateur career, was your first amateur fights in the Titans in the Cage promotion, or did you do some stuff before that?
I competed. I competed jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff, but my first MMA fight was actually an expo fight, so it didn't count on my official record. And I had that fight at 15 years old. Virginia there for a while was known as the Wild Wild West of MMA because there was not really any state regulation to MMA in Virginia. There was some states that were kind of ahead of the game. So I was lucky enough to be at that age that I got to fight at 15 years old instead of having to wait till I was 18. It just didn't count on my record. I had 7 expo MMA fights before I turned 18. And then when I turned 18, I got to fight my first fight with Titans of the Cage. And then I fought my second fight with Titans of the Cage, and I won the 135-pound title in my second official amateur MMA fight. And then I went and fought some in Tennessee. And so I kind of got the best of both worlds. I got to fight at 2 different promotions, get to experience some new things. But most of my amateur fights were with Titans of the Cage promotion, but I went other places and won titles and, just getting that experience as an amateur that I needed to make that leap to the professionals.
That's awesome, man. A lot of experience building up to where you're at now. So let's see if I have this correct. You just turned professional last year or the year before? Is that correct?
My first pro fight, I've had a busy year. My first pro fight was actually January 31st of 2021. Oh. So I'm pretty new as a pro, but I've already put together a 3-0 record. I've been staying busy, staying fighting so far this year.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you said you've already had 3 fights in 2021, 3-0 as a professional.
Yes, sir. And and it's just I've been very blessed to have such a great year. It was always my dream to become a professional fighter, and now I'm doing it and having some success with it, and just keeping my nose to the grindstone because I'm not done achieving my goals yet. So,
yeah. So you discussed that you turned professional. Now, how does that kind of work? Are you more of signed to a promotion, or do you sign like per fight contracts with different promotions?
It's a really good question, because I actually, that's something that just happened to me. So I fought one fight at a promotion in Tennessee in January. It was called Showcase MMA. That fight right there was a one fight contract. I fought one time for them, and that was kind of, it was going to be fight to fight with them. But then I had another promotion in Tennessee reach out to me, and that's Valor Fighting Challenge, and a really good promotion. Tim Loy and Eric Turner, they're really good guys. They run a great show. I actually signed a 4-fight contract with them, and I fought twice for that promotion. But they're kind of taking a break for having shows for the year.
Okay.
So, they gave me permission to take a fight with another promotion if I wanted to. But I love Valor. If they offer me a fight, then I'll go fight for them. So, it's in the professional world, it gets more, it's the same exact thing as amateur fighting, but you have those contracts, you have stuff written on paper that you got to sign, and a lot of documents. And that's kind of what happens to be, signing those 4-fight contracts or 3-fight contracts. But
that's awesome, man. That sounds like a fun process to, be getting into now.
Sometimes it makes me feel like, I'm a big deal, even though I'm just a regional pro fighter. I'm like sitting there, I'm signing a contract right now.
Hey, that's huge, man.
Yeah, it's a big step for me. Being a professional fighter should be something that you can be proud of, and I'm just trying to do everything right, man.
Yeah, man. Like I told you, people talk about you from all over. People from Pulaski, Rafford, you're known around here. So yeah, man, that's awesome, because that's definitely something to be proud of, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
So we just started talking about your professional career. Let's break down into your last fight a little bit. So your last fight, if I have this correct, you had an opponent change on a 4-day notice.
Yes.
And talk a little bit about that going into, that has to come as a shock. As much training and everything that went into your camp leading up to
I tell everybody that, and of course I was extremely upset. At first I didn't think that I was going to get to fight. It's kind of rare for them to find you a replacement fight, especially for a professional fight. It's super rare for them to find you a replacement 4 days notice. But Valor did it, and that's why I got to stick to them. It's a great promotion. They saved the day on that, finding a replacement. But I was supposed to fight a fighter named Jake Lamb from Michigan. He was 2-1 as a pro. It was probably going to be a pretty good fight. Of course, I think I had the advantage. But that's just me having confidence in myself. He backed out, saying that he wasn't mentally right to fight or financially right to fight. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm probably not mentally right or financially right to fight either, but I'm ready to do it. But they found another opponent from Alabama named Matt McKinney. He's had some amateur fights, but I wanted to fight Jake Lamb, and I didn't get to do that. I was supposed to fight at 135 pounds. I was on track to make the weight. Then whenever I went to weigh-ins to fight Matt McKinney, it was supposed to be at 145 pounds, which I was already there a week before the show. And he missed weight and weighed in at 154 pounds. So I had to weigh in with my clothes on and try to get some weight so we could fight. And the fight ended up being at 155 pounds. So I went up 2 weight classes for this last fight, but I wanted to fight, man. When you train that hard for something, you don't want to just say, I ain't fighting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I understand that has to definitely be frustrating, but it sounds like you're kind of game, man, in any weight right there.
Yeah.
So take us through, man. You had to go through this adversity pretty much of getting a new fighter and put in front of you, and you ended up having to fight at a different weight class than you was prepared for, and you still finished the fight in 37 seconds. Kind of walk us through that and how bittersweet that must have felt given the adversity.
Yeah, for sure, man. You know, you have to take every single fight serious in this sport, because anybody could throw a big punch, but I knew that I had the skill advantage in this fight walking in there. I knew that I had the experience, just the training and everything. But, you know, I knew I had to go in there and put it all together. So when that all comes together and you go in there and have a good performance like I did, 37 seconds, it's a bittersweet moment, especially through the fight camp, man. You know, the fight camp's the toughest part. I had a little bit of a knee injury that I had 4 weeks out from the event that I was trying to get healed up. And then after that, I ended up getting 2 cuts on my face in different spots. So I had to deal with that. Then I had, I had a lot of things going on, but I kept pushing through it and stayed mentally strong. And when I got my hand raised at the end of that night, it all hit me that, you know what, I did it. I showed up and I did my job.
Yeah, that has to be bittersweet, man. So you talked about, and I've seen in kind of your past, just looking up stuff on you online, that you fought at 135, 145, and 155. Is that kind of your 3 weight classes that you like to fluctuate in between?
155, to be honest with you, I don't walk around at 155 pounds right now.
Okay.
The 155 was kind of it was definitely a last minute thing. I wouldn't have fought at 155 if it wasn't for it being last minute and stuff. 145 is hit or miss with me. I'm a small 145 pound fighter. 135 is actually my home weight class. I can make that weight easy. The thing that starts to get a little hard whenever you're fighting 135 is there's not many 135 pound fighters at the regional level. So that's why sometimes you see fighters go up in weight. But as far as me, 135 is my weight class. But if the right fight came around at 145 pounds, I'll fight 145. But 155, those guys start to become some grown men at that weight class, and I'm not that. I'm not 155 pounds right now, so I wouldn't want to go against a guy cutting from like 175 pounds. That's just way too big for me to fight against.
Yeah, man. And let's see, you're just 21, is that correct?
Just turned 21, yes, in July.
Hey, that's awesome, man. So yeah, you're just 21, and so you would say that main weight class that you're most comfortable with is that 135.
Yeah, I can make 135 pretty easy, and I feel good, and that's kind of just my home where I need to be fighting at.
That's awesome, man. I wanted to talk to you about this for a minute too. I think I watched the interview with you one time, and you said you were you had been in college for a while, and I know a lot of fighters, when they kind of turn professional and stuff, it seems like early on some of them are doing college and they make that jump to professional. So, did you are you still in college, or how's that going now?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My mom's sitting here; she's gonna be looking at me all wild-eyed and stuff. I have one more class I have to finish before I get my degree. It's just an associate's degree. It's in criminal justice.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a speech class, which where I teach classes all the time at our gym. I should be pretty decent at speaking, but for some reason I'm like super nervous for that class, and I've kind of put it off. But I'll go back and I'm going to get that done this coming up semester, or else my mom's going to kill me. But yeah, I like college, man. I'm glad, straight out of high school, I was like, man, I don't want to go to college. I'm done with school. Let's fight. And my mom and my dad, they made me go. And, in the long run, I appreciate, I enjoyed college. I had some great professors who actually, they really supported me fighting too, which kind of helped. I had my college professors coming and watching me fight. So,
oh, that's awesome.
It was awesome. Westville Community College is a great college for people, and they give you 2 free years of school if you live in Wythe County. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
took advantage of it, and I'm getting ready to finish one more class. So
Yeah, that's great that they offer that, because I know I think I went to Radford University, but 2 years after I was already in school, they announced New River. I think Whitfield had already been doing this, but New River was going to start letting you get those first 2 years for free if you were
yeah,
kind of a local high school student.
and you can do it. You can do a lot with an associates too, like and especially in criminal justice, man, and associates for any like local police department, they like that. They like you having that extra education.
Oh yeah, man, and that's awesome. Just with the time that that you put into yourself and fighting, and then you said you teach classes too uh, at
Yeah,
Ring Combat.
yeah, that's kind of my full-time occupation is with the gym. I teach adults and I teach youth students every week. I teach about 4 classes a week, and I also teach some private lessons too. I love it, man. I eat, sleep, and breathe martial arts. That's for sure. I live the lifestyle, and I'm not complaining about it. I love it, man.
And I love it. I love that too, man. I used to work down in Whitfield. I worked at Anytime Fitness in Whitfield after I got out of college. My
Yeah.
degree was in fitness, so I went down there after I graduated, and a handful of people from y'all's gym that trained at y'all's gym would come in there.
Mhm.
I don't remember the gentleman's name I used to talk to. I wish I could remember, because I know you would know him pretty well. But yeah, a few people used to come in there that trained at y'all's gym.
Yep. Yeah, the Anytime is a good gym. I go there. I go there for a little extra stuff sometimes to get
Oh
some
yeah,
cardio in. Yeah, so it's a good gym.
oh yeah, man. So let's get back to kind of. I guess this could be with your amateur career and professional career. Like, what is the toughest fight you've had to date? Is there kind of a moment where you felt like you had to kind of overcome a big obstacle in one of your fights, maybe getting hit pretty hard or knocked, and had to kind of overcome that?
Yeah. The I fought a guy it was in Bland, Virginia. I fought a guy named AJ Sanchez. He was the champion. He actually beat one of my teammates, my best friend, Ray Holston. He beat him twice. Ray came short of winning the title. And ever since I was 17 watching this fight, and I'm like, I want to fight that guy.
Yeah.
Because, he beat my buddy. And I was like, I want to fight him. I know I can beat him. So I got my opportunity at 18 years old to step up and fight for the belt against AJ. And I dominated that fight. 4 rounds. It was 4 rounds to 0. I was up. I was just everything was coming together. My striking was going good. I was landing takedowns, getting on top. In the 5th round, I remember my dad, my head coach, Greg Ring. He said, "We're winning this fight. Stay disciplined. Stay disciplined with your striking." I went out there and the crowd started cheering for me and chanting my name. I was feeling myself a little bit, and I was pumping my right hand like this. And by the time I pumped it down, here he came over the top with the right hand and rocked me, got on top of me. I was like, oh man, I'm about to lose this fight after winning all these rounds. But, thank the Lord, I ended up getting up and getting on top and winning that fight, but it could have been bad. So AJ, he was a tough fighter. He still is a tough fighter. I hope he comes back and has a good rest of his career. But that was probably my toughest moment in the cage was against AJ Sanchez. He's a tough guy from Chicago.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome, man. That sounds. So you ended up winning the belt after this fight too.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy task, but I did. It was my first amateur belt that I won, and it was probably my favorite fight that I've ever had because that was a time that I grew up since I was 11 years old watching Titans of the Cage, and then then you're sitting there in the cage holding a championship belt, and that was a really surreal moment for me. That was probably still to this day probably my favorite moment of ever fighting was winning that fight.
That has to be bittersweet, man. And you talking about the adversity that you had to come through that AJ Sanchez fight, and then to end up winning the belt for, you know, your family's promotion there, that has to feel great.
Yep.
All right, man. I meant to ask you this too with when you were talking about y'all's classes and stuff. Is let's see, what kind of classes do y'all offer there?
We offer we kind of market ourselves for offering classes for everybody. We have boxing classes, we got MMA classes, and we also do gi and no gi jiu-jitsu. And yeah, and then I don't know if you can hear my mom talking back here, but she said that we offer all women's female jiu-jitsu class too every other weekend. So we got a lot of classes. We got classes for all ages. We got classes for 2-year-olds, and then we got classes for 3 to 8-year-olds and up. So
that's awesome, man. How do you feel kind of targeting this adult group of people? Because I feel like adults could kind of be one of those populations that are kind of hesitant to get into it because they, you know, might feel like they're getting into something like that too late. And even though that's not true, but, you know.
Yeah, like whenever we get a new adult student, the first thing that I like to see is what their goals are, because that's what you kind of have to put in perspective, whether this person's just wanting to join our gym to get in shape, which is 100% fine. You know, those are actually some of the most fun people to work with, is they're so open to learn and just to get in shape. And we got a lot of students like that. Or if they come up to me or my dad and say, we want to fight, then that's whenever we try to tell them, like, hey man, if you want to fight, you got to take this serious. It's, you know, it's a job trying to get ready to go into the cage, because if you go in there unprepared,
yeah,
you know, something bad could happen. You know, you could have a bad experience. So that's kind of the first thing that I get a feel for is what does this person want from the training? And then from there, that's whenever you could start working with people. We got guys that just like to come in and do gi jiu-jitsu. And those guys are really fun to work with too, because they just come in there a couple times a week and just roll around and have a good time. So whatever somebody's wanting to do at the gym, they can do it.
Hey, that's awesome, man. You know, I was kind of asking you that because when I worked at Anytime Fitness in Woodville, I really wanted to come try out y'all's gym. Unfortunately, I got off at 8 p.m., and I think that didn't work at the time with y'all's classes. But somebody like me, man, I just recently I work in Blacksburg now, so there's a boxing gym near there, and I recently joined that. And I was just asking that because someone like myself, I felt like I was getting into it too late. But then, you know, when I got in there, it wasn't bad. I'm not competing, but just learning, you know.
Yeah, man, I tell you, we've got guys that are in their late 50s doing my boxing class, and I love working with them. So, you know, you're never too late to get involved in martial arts. You know, if I could pick like a prime age, if somebody was wanting to compete to get into martial arts, me and my dad was just talking about this, about 15, 16 years old is about the prime age, because you got the maturity level to sit there and take it serious.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're starting to get that athletic ability of a man. So that's probably the prime age for somebody who's wanting to compete to start. But if somebody's just doing it for the love of it, you could be 70 years old sitting there hitting the heavy bag and having a good time.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that's awesome, because I've seen y'all's gym kind of promoted. I've never physically been in there, but I've seen y'all have. It seems like y'all have a lot of good equipment in there. Y'all have a full size octagon in there, I believe.
Yeah, we have a cage.
Yeah,
man, come in and check us out anytime that you want to. We'd love to have you come check us out. And anybody else that's watching this, you know, walk in. We'll show. I'll take the time to show you around the facility. And man, we just love people. That's, you know, even if somebody's not wanting to compete, I just love sharing my passion of this sport to other people. I could sit there and teach them all day long.
Yeah, man. I like that, man. And that's what I'm talking about, because like me and you, we've never met before. And that's a big reason why I like doing podcasts. It's fun getting to have good conversation with somebody that you've never met before, especially on a podcast. It's so genuine, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But man, I told you we'd talk a little bit about UFC and about this big pay-per-view coming up next weekend. So I kind of want to dive into this a little bit for this kind of second half here. Are you one of those guys that's kind of invested into, I guess, like professional fighting on TV? I know you're invested in it as you, but as you know, some fighters, they're kind of like, I like coaching it and doing it, but in terms of like watching it, I'd rather just not, because it's pretty time consuming. Where are you kind of on that? Are you a big fanatic?
Oh yeah, I love the UFC. I could sit. There's sometimes that I think that these fighters should be paid more, but that don't stop me from sitting there watching the UFC. I love UFC. I love Bellator. I love One. I sit there. I could go on a whole binge watch of just old fights, like UFC 27 or something, and just watch like super old MMA fights, like old Pride fights. Like I said, I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, man. Like if the TV's on, it's something to do with fighting, and I love UFC. I watch it all the time.
So I've heard you talk about how your favorite fighter is Dominick Cruz, man. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you compete at his weight class too, so that's has he kind of been a big influence on you, not just in that weight class, but
as a teenager. As a teenager, I really, really liked Dominick Cruz. He really did. He was the one that kind of made me say, this is what I want to do forever as a job. I want to fight, because it's like Dominick Cruz there for a long time had everything that people dream about. He had a nice house. He had a nice car. He had, it just seemed like a really happy, genuinely happy person. But now that I've gotten older, I've kind of started walking away from Dominick Cruz a little bit. Not because I don't like his fighting style, but just because the game's kind of passed him up a little bit. And he's not – I respect Dominick Cruz as a fighter, but as far as the long layoffs that he's had due to injuries, and now he's not injured and he's still not fighting, it's not something that I think of like myself. I like to stay active. Yeah. And fight and compete. So now, man, I've kind of moved to liking other fighters now. I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan now.
Oh yeah.
The dude is just an average guy out there fighting. I really enjoy him. And also, if I have to go with the fighter that kind of runs his mouth a little bit, I'm not big into the trash talk game, but I do like Cody Garbrandt. If I have to pick somebody that fights 135 now, I've really started to like him, even though he's been on a losing streak. But Dominick Cruz will always have a special place in my heart. But now I've kind of moved on to liking other fighters.
That's awesome, man. Because with you mentioning you like Cody Garbrandt, I feel like what makes him and Dominick Cruz so unique, more so, I guess, Cody Garbrandt now, disregarding some of those losses that he's had, is just the unique movement and the head movement that him and Dominick Cruz have both provided. So that's unique that you like Cody Garbrandt too, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, we got UFC 266 coming up next weekend. It's a huge card. Have you looked into this card at all?
Yes, I have. This is going to be Volkanowski versus Ortega, which a cool thing about that fight is, they were coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, and big shout out to the 185-pound winner, Brian Battle. I actually go and train sometimes at Brian's gym in Charlotte, North Carolina, High Stone MMA.
Okay.
And they come from a really good team. So for that fight right there, just because Brian Battle was on Team Volk, that's who I have to go for. I have to go for Volkanovski to win this fight. And I'm excited about that one. That's going to be a really good fight, because Ortega's scrappy, but you can't go against Volk. That dude is a Mack truck.
I agree. It's so interesting that Volkanowski used to be like a heavyweight.
Oh, yeah. Back when he was playing rugby.
Oh, yeah. And, both of these two guys, they faced Max Holloway. Volkanovski had two tough fights with Max Holloway. The second one, a lot of people kind of try to go back and forth on if Volkanowski really won, and Ortega just had a tough time with Holloway with the boxing. So I definitely think this one's going to be unique. I agree with you though. I'm going with Volkanowski. I believe he's kind of cemented his place as a real deal in that division.
And if he wins this fight, you got to start looking at him being one of the best featherweights to ever fight in the division, because Max Holloway's no joke. That dude is the real deal. And Volk's beat him. So you gotta. He might be the new king of the featherweight division if he wins this one.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like you said, Max Holloway, he's tough. He's not going to go away. Did you happen to see his last? I think it was his last fight where he was pretty much telling Dana White he was the best boxer in the UFC while he was dodging punches.
Yeah, crazy.
It was crazy, man. So let's get into the co-main event. Let's get your predictions here. We got Valentina Shevchenko. She is on an unbelievable streak, just looks to be unbeatable, and she's facing contender Lauren Murphy.
Yeah. Cool story about this fight. I actually watched Lauren Murphy fight live at Invicta in Kansas City, Missouri back in 2014. I watched Lauren Murphy fight, and I was like, I remember sitting there with my mom and my dad, and we were like seeing this girl walk out from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm pretty sure is where she's from, and she comes out there and she killed that fight. But this is going to come down to experience at the top level, and it comes down to who this person's fought. When you look at the Bullet, she's fought everybody in the division, and nobody's came close to beating that girl. Nobody, not even. There's not been anybody that's here in the last 4 fights that she's had. I don't think anybody's came close. But Lauren Murphy, that's somebody who does have 4 losses on her record. She's lost in the UFC. I just kind of think that it might be a little soon for this moment for her against somebody that's so seasoned as a champion. So I got to go with Shevchenko on this one, man.
I agree with you, man. Shevchenko, that's who I think is going to take this one, too. I respect Lauren Murphy's definitely been on a roll here lately. She's very deserving of the title shot. Shevchenko's just had so much experience. I mean, fought Amanda Nunes twice, and that second fight could have went either way. So, yeah, definitely I got to go with Valentina Shevchenko as well. Breaking down, this third fight on the card, man. If you can see my hat pretty good, you can tell I'm excited about this one, man. Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. What are you thinking about this fight, man?
I think this is the fan favorite fight. This kind of from the pictures, don't get me wrong. Somebody can look super in shape in pictures and then come out there and fight a horrible fight.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at TJ Dillashaw when he fought at 125. The dude was shredded. He probably had 0.01% body fat. I mean, he had like a 15 pack of abs, and then he went out there and fought a horrible fight. But Nick Diaz is a scrapper, but so is Robbie Lawler. This is a fan favorite fight for sure. But for my prediction for this one, I think Nick Diaz has something to prove, and I think Robbie Lawler might be looking for a way out of MMA and look to retire.
Yeah.
And Nick Diaz has lost a lot of time, man, out of his career just for things going on in his life. He's a character.
Yeah, he hasn't fought since 2014, man.
Yeah, but you can't count that dude out. So I'm actually I'm a pretty big Diaz brother fan. Yeah, we actually, my mom just reminded me because I forget some of these things, but we actually share we actually have the same sponsor, Lana's Egg Whites. So I would be wrong to go against Nick Diaz because I would kind of be going against my own team through sponsorship right there. So I've got to pull for Nick Diaz in that one.
That's great, man. Having that mutual sponsor, that's awesome.
It's a good sponsor. She sponsors Nick Diaz, Tony Ferguson, Paige Van Zandt. So it's great to have like a similar sponsor as all those great fighters.
Oh yeah, man, that's awesome. Just putting you on that tier too. So that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, man. So with Nick Diaz, I think he's one of those guys. I'm a big Nate Diaz fan. He's my favorite fighter. I've been waiting for Nick to come back, so I'm glad he's coming back. Those guys don't believe in ring rust, man, and they're always staying in shape, doing their triathlons, and those guys have cardio for days. I didn't like the last. I think Robbie Lawler, I believe his last fight was against Colby Covington, and it seemed like he was kind of hesitant to pull the trigger. A lot of people was wanting him to get that done against Covington. So yeah, I'm going with Nick Diaz, man. I think, like you said, he's back. He's got something to prove. I believe he's gunning for that Masvidal fight. So I believe he's trying to make a big statement here.
That's a big pull for the UFC if Diaz could beat Lawler and then get that Masvidal fight set up, man. It's a great fight for the UFC to make.
Oh yeah. So we got two more fights here on the main card. Curtis Blades versus Jairzinho Rozenstruk. Big matchup in the heavyweight division for both of these guys. They both kind of had some tough losses to Ngannou. And so what's your thoughts on Curtis Blades versus Rozenstruk?
Curtis Blades definitely has the wrestling advantage in that fight, because Curtis Blades, he is a wrestler. He's a wrestler turned MMA fighter. So this is a good fight. And it's always hard to predict heavyweight fights because literally it's a coin flip. It's whoever hits the other person's chin first, because these guys have unbelievable power. Now, if I was a heavyweight and as an MMA fighter, I'd probably almost poop my pants going in there and fighting. Like, imagine fighting Derek Lewis or something, standing across from him. I would never want to be hit by either one of these guys or any heavyweight in the UFC. Yeah. But if I have to go by just credentials, I got to go with Curtis Razor Blades in this fight against Rozenstruk because the wrestling. Yeah. Because if he gets hurt with something, he's going to take Rozenstruk down. He's not known to have a great ground game or anything. So I got to go with Blades for this one. I don't know how he gets it done. I don't know when he gets it done, but I think he does.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm picking Curtis Blades as well. Rozenstruk's one of those guys that kind of seemed like he got pushed really fast because of how exciting he was very early on in the UFC. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely one of the top tier guys, but I believe that Curtis Blades' wrestling is ultimately gonna get him through this fight. And opening up the main card, we'll get into this last one. Jessica Andrade, former champion, facing Cynthia Calvillo. What's your thoughts on this one?
I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm not positive who Calvillo is.
Don't feel bad. I don't know too much about her either.
And I've seen Jessica Andrade just fought for the belt not long ago, I don't think, and she lost. But the girl was tough. Andrade was tough. I'm not seeing too much of her offense because in that fight, she was definitely on the defense the whole time. And that was against Valentina Shevchenko as she fought Andrade. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, it was. She faced Shevchenko at 135, I believe she moved up.
Yeah, so yeah, she did move up because this is at her weight at flyweight. I didn't get to see much of her offense in that fight against Shevchenko because she was on her back the whole time because Shevchenko kept taking her down and everybody was surprised and just dominated her. I don't really know Calvillo, but a big fight difference. You got a 21-9 against Andrade and a 9-2-1 against Calvillo.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Andrade on this one, but I'm just going to go ahead and say this Calvillo girl might be legit. You don't get a 9-2-1 record and be in the UFC for being a scrub. So yeah, this one could go anyway, but I'm going to have to go with Jessica Andrade at her own weight this time. She was tough against Shevchenko. I'm going to go with her by decision.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm picking Jessica Andrade as well. It's not too doesn't happen too many times that me and the guest agree on every single fight.
Clean sweep.
So that's sweet, man. But yeah, Andrade, she's pretty much faced all the top contenders. Shevchenko, I think she faced Rose. She faced Zhang. I mean, she's faced all the top tier, the women in those divisions. So yeah, UFC 266 is going to be a fun card. I definitely look forward to that. And Robbie, I got two more questions for you. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I appreciate you so much for being on today, man. But kind of, near the end here, for some new fans that might just now be getting to know you, and for your fans, what can we expect next for Razor Robbie Ring? For the rest of this year, or maybe early next year.
So I love to fight and I love to compete. So I want to get back in the cage ASAP. But like I said, the promotion that I had the contract under, they're done fighting for the rest of the year. We have been in talks with some bigger organizations. So that's some big news that I haven't really let out yet. I'm not going to say the promotion just because nothing's set in stone yet, but we've been in talks with some promotions looking to maybe fight December or January. So that's probably what's going to be next for me. And if I can get a fight, that makes 4 fights in the year. And I'll be really happy with that. But, if I can't get on with a bigger promotion, it's all right. Then I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm just hoping that Valor comes back because I really enjoy fighting for Valor Fighting Championship. But right now, my focus is on, I got a lot of new teammates getting ready to compete November 6th at Titans of the Cage. My focus is on getting them ready to go, man, so they have a good experience and keep wanting to do it.
That's awesome, man. I'm definitely looking forward to what's next for you. And I wanted to give you kind of this last question. I just wanted to give you some time. Maybe you wanted to shout out, just give you time to make some shout outs, maybe your sponsors, teammates. You got the floor here for the last little bit.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd like to thank you, man, for getting me on your podcast. I've had a great time talking to you. And it's good to see, it's not every day here in Southwest Virginia that you find another fight fan that shares the same passion as you do. So
I appreciate awesome. That, man. I appreciate you so much for coming on, man.
Oh, no problem. And I want to thank my team at Ring Combat Sports. If it wasn't for my team, I would not be where I'm at today, especially coming right out of COVID, turning pro right in the midst of it. You have to have some loyal teammates to come in there and help you get trained up. I like to thank my mom and my dad for sure. They always push me and they always make sure that I'm ready to go in there and compete. I love them to death. I got a lot of sponsors. I had a lot of sponsors for this last fight, but I'm going to just go ahead and give a shout out to my sponsors that's already reoccurring for me. So Barney Construction in Wytheville, A1 Storage in Wytheville, Chris Fox at Berkshire Hathaway, and then Window World of Wytheville and Lana's Egg Whites. So thank you to those sponsors. And like I said, man, thanks for having me on the show. Anytime that you want to have me on here to talk some UFC, I'm down anytime. I get a little bored sometimes when I'm not training. So I am down to talk UFC with anybody at any time. So
hey, I appreciate that, Robbie. So we'll end it out here because I appreciate you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule with training and everything to come on and talk with me today, man. It was so good to get to know you. And I definitely can't wait to definitely want to get down there. I'm trying to get a job a little closer to home. So, definitely if I can get something a little closer to home, not having to go from Blacksburg to Wytheville, that would be good. So, guys, remember you said Titans in the Cage is coming November 6th.
November 6th, yes, sir. At the Wytheville Meeting Center right here in Wytheville, right in the middle of town. Beautiful venue. You ought to come check it out, man. Anybody that's watching this, come check out Titans of the Cage in Whitfield. It's an experience watching an MMA fight live. And, especially now that this is basically the first live event that, that's kind of been held indoors in Wythe County. that I can think of that's going to be like a sporting event besides high school sports. So y'all come check it out, and I'll be there. I'm a really down to earth person. I'll talk to anybody at the fights if you come up to me. So y'all come check it out.
Yeah, guys, go check out Titans in the Cage November 6th at the Withville Meeting Center. Also, guys, as we talked about earlier, Robbie and his family run Ring Combat Sports. That's in Withville. Where is that located at? Is that
It's
more
2190 West Ridge Road. You just look up the hospital or whatever, and then you just keep driving past the hospital, and we're out there on the right.
All right. That sounds good. So definitely go check that out, guys. If you're adults, just don't be afraid to get into it late, because like Robbie said, it's never too late.
Yeah,
for that stuff.
Never too late to get started.
And guys, at the beginning of the podcast, you'll be able to see I have Robbie's social media, his Instagram, Twitter, his YouTube page, all that posted, so you can continue to follow him and see what's next as he goes on this journey as his professional career. So Robbie, man, I appreciate you more than you know coming on today and talking with me. And,
no problem, man. I enjoyed it. I had a great time.
And I'll end this recording here, and then we'll just finish out later. So thanks, guys, for watching today, and we'll see you next time.